Kai's hands shook as the massive doors of the alien ship closed behind him. He had been exploring a remote planet when the aliens appeared, swift and silent, surrounding his small team in a matter of moments. His comrades were already captured, dragged away to unknown fates. Now he stood alone in a narrow corridor, lit by cold, greenish lights that seemed to hum in his ears. Every step echoed loudly, making him feel small and alone. The ship smelled of metal and oil. The walls were smooth and cold, reflecting the harsh lights. Kai's mind raced. He had trained for survival, but nothing could prepare him for being alone inside an alien warship. As he walked forward, he noticed strange symbols on the walls, glowing faintly. He tried to remember any information from his database, but none of it helped. The symbols were nothing he recognized. At the end of the corridor, a massive door slid open. Inside was a large room with a high ceiling. Standing there was Sergeant Zorak, a towering alien with green skin and sharp eyes that seemed to pierce right through Kai. Zorak's armor gleamed under the lights, and he held a strange weapon that looked heavier than Kai himself. "You are human," Zorak said in a deep, rumbling voice. "You will serve. You will follow orders. Or you will die." Kai swallowed hard, keeping his voice steady. I can follow orders," he said, trying not to sound afraid. Zorak stepped closer, his gaze fixed on Kai. "You have nothing. No weapon. No skills beyond your human weakness. Bring me a weapon. Bring me something I can call dangerous. Fail, and your life ends tonight." Kai's stomach tightened. He looked around the room. There were other prisoners, humans like him, sitting silently in the corners. None of them spoke. None of them moved. They all looked defeated. He could feel their fear, but also their hopelessness. Kai clenched his fists. He would not give up. He could not. He remembered the small survival kit strapped to his belt. Inside it were basic supplies, a few rations, water, a small flashlight, and a toothbrush. At first, it seemed useless. How could a toothbrush become a weapon? But Kai was determined. If this was his only chance to survive, he would have to use every bit of his mind and every small resource he had. He returned to his cell, which was just a small space with metal walls and a hard floor. There was barely enough room to sit. The toothbrush felt heavy in his hand as he turned it over. Its bristles were worn, but the handle was solid plastic. Kai examined the toothbrush carefully. He knew that if he could sharpen one end, it could pierce, poke, or at least distract an opponent. It would not be a sword or a gun, but perhaps it could be enough if he was clever. Kai placed the toothbrush on the floor and began rubbing it against the metal grate that covered the cell floor. Sparks flew lightly with each scrape. His hands bled a little, but he did not notice. Hours passed. He worked slowly, methodically, thinking about angles, strength, and balance. He knew that a poorly sharpened weapon could be worse than nothing. While he worked, Kai observed the aliens through the small slit in his cell. They were enormous, moving with confidence and precision. He noticed the way they trained, the way they held their weapons, and the way they looked at humans as if they were weak animals. This made him angry, but he used the anger to focus. Every movement of his hand against the toothbrush was precise. Every spark was a step closer to survival. Finally, the toothbrush had a fine point at one end. It was not long, not sharp like a knife, but it was firm and solid. Kai tested its weight in his hand. He imagined how he could strike, jab, or even block if needed. He smiled slightly. It was crude, but it was his weapon. And sometimes, the smallest weapon could be the deadliest if used with skill and courage. The next morning, the cell door opened. Kai was brought before Sergeant Zorak again. The sergeant's sharp eyes scanned him, noticing the human was holding something small and unusual. "What is that?" Zorak asked, pointing at the toothbrush. Kai lifted it calmly. "It is my weapon, sir," he said. "It may be small, but I can use it." Zorik laughed, a deep, harsh sound that shook the walls. "You dare bring me a human toy and call it a weapon? Do you think I am a fool?" Kai stood straight, holding the toothbrush firmly. "I am not a fool, sir. I know it is not like your weapons. But I am human. And humans find ways to survive. You will see." The sergeant's eyes narrowed. "Very well. Prove it. Show me that this toy can be dangerous. Fight, or you die." Kai felt his heart race. He knew he was small, and the alien before him was massive and strong. But he also knew humans had something the aliens often underestimated: intelligence, courage, and adaptability. He took a deep breath, steadying his hands. He remembered his training, the drills, the lessons about balance, timing, and observation. This was not just about strength. It was about thinking faster, moving smarter, and striking with purpose. The alien trainee chosen to fight him stepped forward. She was tall and muscular, with scales covering her arms and a blade in her hand. Kai's grip on the toothbrush tightened. He watched her stance, her eyes, her breathing. He noticed the gaps in her armor and how she shifted her weight. Every movement was an opportunity. When she lunged, Kai sidestepped quickly, jabbing the toothbrush at her side. She was startled by the unexpected weapon. He feinted left, then moved right, hitting her arm to make her drop the blade. The brush was not a sword, but it was enough to disarm her with precision and timing. Zorik watched silently, his expression unreadable. Kai felt a spark of hope. Maybe he could survive this. Maybe he could even earn respect. The first test was complete, and he had lived to see the next challenge. But he knew this was only the beginning. The alien ship was full of danger, and his courage would be tested every day. Kai returned to his cell, holding the toothbrush carefully. It was small, but it was proof that humans could adapt, survive, and fight even in the most impossible situations. He looked at the other prisoners, who stared at him with a mix of fear and curiosity. Maybe, just maybe, he could inspire them to believe that even the smallest human could make a difference in a world ruled by powerful aliens. Kai sat down, exhausted but determined. His journey had only just begun, and the alien sergeant's challenge was only the first of many tests. But one thing was certain: humans were not weak. Humans were clever, resourceful, and courageous. And Kai would prove it to everyone on that warship. Kai returned to his cell, holding the small toothbrush like it was a treasure. He knew it would not be easy to convince the alien sergeant that this tiny object could be a weapon. But Kai also knew humans had something aliens rarely understood: creativity and determination. He looked at the toothbrush again, turning it over in his hands. Its handle was solid, and the bristles were worn, but the tip he had sharpened yesterday had a rough edge. It was not perfect, but it could pierce and jab if used carefully. Kai began thinking about how he could make it even stronger. He looked around the cell for anything that could help. The floor was metal, the walls were solid, and the bars were too thick to bend. He saw a small piece of wire that had fallen from the ceiling vent. He picked it up carefully and began twisting it around the base of the toothbrush. The wire would help him hold the brush firmly without slipping, and it could even add a little weight to improve the force of his strike. Hours passed, and Kai worked silently, testing angles and movements. Every motion was precise. He imagined fighting a much larger opponent and knew that every feint, jab, and block would need to be perfect. His fingers were sore, his hands scraped against the metal floor, and the cell felt cold, but he did not stop. He knew this was not just about surviving. It was about proving that a human could overcome an alien with intelligence and courage. While Kai worked, he observed the other prisoners through the small slit in his cell. They were quiet, huddled in corners, and seemed hopeless. Some of them had tried to fight before and had failed. Kai wondered how they had lost their courage. He realized that fear was stronger than pain. Humans could be beaten physically, but when the mind was free, no one could take courage away. He made a silent promise to himself: if he could survive, he would show the others that fear could be overcome with cleverness and determination. When night came, Kai finally finished preparing the toothbrush. The tip was sharp and firm. The wire added extra grip and a little balance, making it feel stronger than its size suggested. He tested it lightly on the floor, tapping, jabbing, and twisting. The brush held up perfectly. Kai smiled. It was ready. Not just a toothbrush, but a tool of survival. The next morning, Zorik appeared at the cell door again. The sergeant's large green eyes studied Kai with a mixture of curiosity and annoyance. "Have you made a weapon, human?" Zorik asked. Kai nodded, holding the toothbrush tightly. "Yes, sir. It is ready." Zorik's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Very well. You will face a challenge. Prove that this small human toy can be useful in combat. You will fight one of my soldiers. If you fail, you die." Kai's heart pounded, but his hands remained steady. He had prepared, and he had thought through every movement. He followed the alien guards to a large training arena. The room was enormous, with high ceilings and walls made of smooth metal. Strange alien symbols were carved into the floor, glowing faintly under the lights. Kai's opponent stepped forward. She was taller and stronger than him, with scaly green skin and sharp claws. She held a long, curved blade that gleamed under the arena lights. Her eyes showed no fear, only confidence. Kai could see why many humans had been defeated here before. He took a deep breath, holding the toothbrush tightly. The alien soldier moved first, lunging forward with incredible speed. Kai sidestepped, feeling the air rush past him as the blade sliced where he had just been. He jabbed quickly with the toothbrush, aiming for the gap between her armor plates. The tip of the brush grazed her skin, causing her to stumble slightly. She had expected a weak human, not someone moving with such precision. Kai continued to dodge and weave, keeping low and using his small size to his advantage. Every step he took was calculated. He tapped the alien's arm with the brush, then feinted left and jabbed right. The alien's eyes widened in surprise. Kai realized that while the brush was small, it could strike vulnerable points if used cleverly. Zorik watched from above, his arms crossed. He had seen many humans try and fail. But something about Kai's movements made him pause. There was a rhythm to the fight, a strategy behind every motion. The human was using his mind, not just his strength. That was something Zorik had not expected. The fight continued. Kai moved quickly, sometimes jumping back to avoid a powerful strike, sometimes pressing forward to strike a weak spot. He remembered his training: stay calm, observe, and use the opponent's weight against them. The alien soldier swung her blade with strength, but Kai was faster and smarter. He jabbed the toothbrush under her arm, then twisted, making her drop the blade. The clatter of metal echoed through the arena. Kai held his ground, breathing steadily. The alien soldier looked at him in disbelief. No human had ever disarmed her before. Zorik leaned forward, intrigued. He could see that this tiny creature had survived not because of strength, but because of strategy and courage. Kai moved back, keeping the toothbrush ready. He watched the soldier carefully, noticing her patterns. Every time she raised her arm, she exposed her side. Every time she lunged, she shifted her weight slightly. Kai learned quickly, adjusting his movements. He jabbed, dodged, and twisted again, always staying one step ahead. Finally, the alien soldier stepped back, dropping her weapon completely. Kai lowered the toothbrush slowly, keeping his eyes on her. He had won, not because he was stronger, but because he had used his mind, his courage, and his small weapon in the right way. Zorek's eyes narrowed. He did not smile, but there was respect in his gaze. He had seen humans before, but none like Kai. This human had turned a toothbrush into a tool of survival and had used intelligence to defeat a stronger opponent. Kai returned to his cell, exhausted but proud. He knew this was only the first real test. The alien ship was full of dangers, and the sergeant would continue to challenge him. But now, Kai had proof, humans could survive, even in a world ruled by stronger creatures, if they used their minds and courage. Other prisoners looked at him differently now. They whispered quietly among themselves, curiosity and hope in their voices. Kai realized that courage was contagious. If one human could face the impossible and survive, maybe others could too. Kai sat down, holding the toothbrush carefully. It was small, but it had proven its value. He smiled slightly, thinking about what was coming next. The alien sergeant had set impossible challenges, but Kai was ready. His mind was sharp, his courage was strong, and his weapon, simple as it was, had already saved him once. Kai closed his eyes for a moment, resting briefly. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he knew he could face them. He was human, and humans were clever, resourceful, and brave. And he would show everyone on that ship that even the smallest human, with the simplest tool, could make a difference. After his first victory, Kai returned to his cell with a mixture of relief and determination. The sharpened toothbrush still felt firm in his hand. It had been enough to survive the first test, but he knew the challenges would only grow more dangerous. The aliens did not forgive weakness, and Zorek had already shown that failure could mean death. Kai understood that he had to keep improving, not just his weapon, but his skills and his mind. As he settled into the small space, Kai noticed other humans watching him. Their eyes were filled with fear, curiosity, and something new, hope. Kai realized that they had been waiting for someone to show them that survival was possible. He took a deep breath and decided to act. Humans could not rely on strength alone. They had to use intelligence, strategy, and creativity. Kai began quietly speaking to the prisoners in small whispers. "We may be small, but we can survive," he said. "We do not need alien strength to fight. We need to think, to watch, and to act at the right moment. You can use anything you have as a tool. Even the simplest things can become a weapon if you use them cleverly." The other humans listened cautiously. Many had lost hope, beaten down by the constant pressure and cruelty of the aliens. But Kai's courage was contagious. Slowly, they began to understand. He showed them how to hold small objects firmly, how to use feints and quick movements to distract stronger opponents, and how to find weaknesses in alien armor and technique. Kai worked tirelessly, even while avoiding the attention of the guards. He practiced jabs, blocks, and quick maneuvers in his small cell. He demonstrated how the toothbrush could be used to jab, twist, and deflect. He taught timing, precision, and patience. Each human practiced carefully, gaining small victories in the confined space. Meanwhile, Zorek observed from afar. He did not intervene directly, but he was intrigued. Humans were not supposed to act as a group, yet Kai was teaching others to survive. It was clever, but dangerous. The sergeant could see that Kai was different. He had courage, intelligence, and a unique determination that none of the other humans had shown. Zorek wondered if these qualities could be valuable rather than merely dangerous. One day, Zorek called Kai to the arena again. "Your skills have grown," the sergeant said. "You are clever, human. But intelligence alone is not enough. Strength will be tested. Today, you will face two opponents at the same time. Succeed, and you will earn my notice. Fail, and the consequences will be severe." Kai nodded calmly. He knew that facing two aliens at once would be difficult, but he also trusted his mind and his training. He adjusted the wire on his toothbrush, feeling its balance and grip. Then he stepped into the arena. The two alien soldiers were larger and stronger than anyone Kai had faced before. They moved in coordination, circling him like predators. One lunged from the left while the other came from the right. Kai dodged the first attack, rolling to the side and jabbing the toothbrush toward the nearest alien's side. The tip grazed armor, and the alien staggered slightly. Kai's movements were quick and precise. He kept his opponents focused on him, using feints to make them misstep. He ducked low, jumped back, and twisted his body to avoid strikes. Each jab of the toothbrush was calculated to exploit gaps in armor and to create openings. The aliens were strong, but Kai was clever. He noticed that the two aliens relied heavily on power and expected him to attack recklessly. Kai used this against them. He feinted a jab at one alien, drawing her attention, then quickly spun to strike the other. Both stumbled as they tried to adjust, giving Kai a moment to regain his balance. He moved with patience, striking only when an opportunity presented itself. The fight continued with intensity. Kai was small and nimble, while the aliens were powerful and imposing. Yet the toothbrush, his simple weapon, allowed him to control the distance, distract, and defend. He jabbed the tip at weak points, twisted it to block incoming strikes, and stayed light on his feet. The aliens began to realize that strength alone would not win this fight. Zorik watched silently. He had expected the human to fail. Yet here Kai was, alive and unbroken, using his mind and courage to survive. The sergeant recognized that Kai's ability to teach, inspire, and fight strategically was unlike anything he had seen in other species. Humans were small and weak in the eyes of the aliens, yet Kai was proving that strength was not the only path to victory. After several tense minutes, one of the aliens lost her balance completely, slipping on the smooth arena floor. Kai saw the opening and acted quickly. He jabbed the toothbrush with precision, making contact with a weak spot on her armor. She stumbled and fell to the ground. The second alien hesitated, unsure how to continue. Kai used the moment to feint left, jab right, and create space between them. The two aliens stopped, lowering their weapons in surprise and frustration. Kai stood in the arena, breathing heavily but proud. He had survived against overwhelming odds. Not because of strength, but because of strategy, timing, and courage. The toothbrush had proven itself again as more than a simple tool, it was an extension of his mind. Zorik approached slowly. His massive form cast a shadow over Kai. "You have skill, human," the sergeant said. "You are clever, and you survive where others fail. Perhaps humans are not as weak as I thought." Kai nodded, keeping his eyes steady. "We survive because we think, sir. Strength alone is not enough. We use our minds and courage." The sergeant did not respond immediately. He turned and looked at the other humans in the arena. Many were watching silently, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and admiration. Kai realized that his actions were beginning to change how the aliens viewed humans. They were no longer just weak creatures to be controlled, they were clever, resourceful, and dangerous in ways that strength alone could not measure. Kai returned to his cell that evening, exhausted but satisfied. He had proven that humans could survive, even in impossible situations. He had also shown that courage and intelligence could inspire others. The prisoners began to look at him differently, whispering quietly about what was possible. Kai knew the path ahead would not be easy. Zorik would continue to test him, and the ship was full of danger. But he had learned an important lesson: humans had something unique. They could adapt, learn quickly, and turn even the simplest tools into weapons. Even in a world dominated by stronger, faster aliens, humans could survive and even thrive. Kai lay down on the cold metal floor of his cell, gripping the toothbrush tightly. It was a small object, but it was a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. He thought about the next challenge, about what he could teach the other prisoners, and about how humans could continue to surprise the aliens. Tomorrow would bring new trials, new dangers, and new opportunities. But Kai felt ready. He was human, and humans could survive. They could fight, think, and win in ways that others could never imagine. And Kai would continue to lead, to teach, and to prove that courage, intelligence, and creativity could overcome even the strongest adversaries. Kai closed his eyes for the first time in hours, feeling a small sense of peace. He had survived, and he had won respect. The journey was just beginning, but he knew one thing with certainty: humans were more than their size and strength. They were clever, courageous, and unstoppable when they used their minds and hearts. Kai woke early in his small cell, the toothbrush still in his hand. It had become more than a tool, it was a symbol of hope, a reminder that humans could survive even in a world dominated by aliens. After yesterday's fight, the other prisoners looked at him differently. There was fear, yes, but also curiosity. Kai could see that some of them wanted to try, to learn, to fight back. He decided it was time to act. If humans were going to survive, they needed more than one clever mind. They needed teamwork, strategy, and courage. Kai began speaking quietly to the prisoners in hushed tones, careful that the alien guards would not hear. "Listen," he said, his voice low but firm. "We are small and weak compared to them. But we have something they cannot take from us. We have brains, creativity, and courage. If we use these, we can protect ourselves. We can survive." The other prisoners listened cautiously. Some were hesitant, thinking they were too weak to fight. Others had already given up hope. But Kai did not waver. He showed them how a simple object could become a weapon, how careful observation could reveal weaknesses, and how small movements could overcome great strength. He demonstrated jabs, twists, and quick blocks with his toothbrush, showing them that precision mattered more than power. Slowly, the humans began to practice. They started with small exercises, learning how to hold improvised weapons, how to move lightly on the cold metal floors, and how to watch their opponents carefully. Kai emphasized patience. "Do not rush," he said. "Wait for the right moment. Strike only when it counts." That is how humans survive. Days passed, and the small group of humans began to improve. They learned to use small tools, broken pieces of metal, and even scraps of wire as weapons. Kai taught them how to work together, to cover each other, and to think several steps ahead. The aliens noticed subtle changes. Humans moved differently now, with more confidence and coordination. Zorik watched quietly, intrigued by this shift. One day, Zorik summoned Kai to the arena again. "You have trained well, human," the sergeant said. "But I wonder if this is cleverness or luck. Today, you will face a new challenge. You will fight with a partner. Success will show your intelligence. Failure will show weakness." Kai understood immediately. He could not do this alone. He chose a human prisoner named Lian, who had shown courage and quick thinking during training. Lian was nervous but trusted Kai. Together, they stepped into the arena. Two large alien soldiers stood before them, their eyes sharp and their weapons heavy. They moved in synchronization, circling like predators. Kai whispered quickly to Lian, "Stay light on your feet. Watch their movements. I will create openings. You follow and strike when you see the chance." The fight began. One alien lunged at Kai while the other charged Lian. Kai dodged swiftly, jabbing his toothbrush at the first alien. The tip hit a weak spot in the armor, and the alien staggered. Lian followed Kai's instructions carefully, striking the second alien's leg with a small piece of metal. The aliens were strong, but humans were clever. Kai and Lian moved as a team, feinting, dodging, and striking at weak points. Every movement was calculated, every strike precise. The aliens tried to use brute force, but Kai and Lian stayed unpredictable. They pressed forward when the moment was right, retreated when necessary, and always watched each other for support. Zorik observed silently, his massive form unmoving. He had trained countless species in combat, but this human team surprised him. They were small, yet coordinated. They were clever, yet brave. And they used every opportunity to turn weakness into advantage. The sergeant realized that humans had something unique, the ability to adapt quickly, to think under pressure, and to work together in ways stronger species often overlooked. After several tense minutes, Kai and Lian managed to disarm one alien and knock the other to the ground. The two humans stood together, breathing heavily but victorious. The arena was silent except for their heavy breaths and the clatter of fallen weapons. Kai looked at Lian and smiled. Together, they had achieved what seemed impossible. When they returned to their cell, the other humans were waiting. Their eyes were wide with admiration and hope. Kai spoke to them again. "See what we can do when we think and work together," he asked. "Strength is not the only way to win. Courage, intelligence, and teamwork can make us powerful even when we are small." Over the next few days, Kai continued training the humans. They practiced coordinated movements, using small weapons in pairs, and creating distractions to confuse larger opponents. They learned to watch the aliens closely, to notice patterns in their movements, and to anticipate attacks. Each human improved, gaining confidence and skill. Even the alien guards began to notice the changes. Humans moved with purpose now. They were not easy targets. They struck with precision, retreated smartly, and showed patience that surprised even seasoned soldiers. Some aliens whispered among themselves, unsure how such small creatures could act so strategically. Zorik remained silent, but his eyes followed Kai with interest. One afternoon, an unexpected test arrived. An alien officer entered the prison block, announcing that humans were being observed for a special task. The humans would need to demonstrate their coordination and intelligence under pressure. Kai understood immediately. This was another opportunity to prove that humans were clever and resourceful. Kai gathered the humans quietly. "Remember everything we have practiced," he said. "Stay calm. Watch carefully. Work together. Even the smallest human can make a difference if we think and act smartly." The humans nodded, gripping their improvised weapons and standing tall despite their fear. When the test began, Kai led the group through a series of tasks. They had to move quickly without being detected, retrieve objects from dangerous areas, and defend themselves against alien soldiers using only clever tricks and small tools. The humans worked together flawlessly. Kai directed their movements, pointed out openings, and encouraged them to stay calm under pressure. By the end of the test, every human had performed admirably. They had used intelligence, timing, and teamwork to succeed where many would have failed. Zorik observed from above, his expression unreadable but thoughtful. He had expected weakness and failure, yet here were humans who had adapted, learned, and overcome challenges that should have been impossible. Kai returned to his cell that night, exhausted but satisfied. He looked at the other humans and smiled. They had begun to believe in themselves. They had begun to understand that even in the face of enormous strength, humans had a unique power. It was not brute force. It was creativity, courage, and the ability to think faster than anyone else. Kai lay down, holding the toothbrush in his hand. It had started as a simple tool, but now it was part of something greater. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, a reminder that no matter the odds, humans could survive and even thrive. Kai knew the road ahead would be full of challenges, but he also knew that humans were not alone anymore. They had a leader, a plan, and the courage to face anything. Tomorrow would bring new trials, new tests, and new challenges from the aliens. But Kai felt ready. The humans he had trained were no longer weak or hopeless. They were clever, coordinated, and courageous. and together, they could change how the aliens saw them forever. Kai closed his eyes, feeling a small sense of pride. He had taken the first steps in transforming fear into strength. He had taught humans to believe in themselves and to use their minds in ways that even the aliens could not predict. The journey was far from over, but Kai knew one truth: humans could survive, outsmart, and even inspire others in a world that had once seemed impossible. The morning light in the alien ship was cold and harsh. Kai woke early, as always, and immediately checked the small toothbrush in his hand. It had become more than a weapon. It was a symbol of survival and hope for all the humans in the prison. He could hear whispers and soft footsteps from the other prisoners. They were restless today. Something had changed. The humans had grown bolder. Under Kai's guidance, they had trained their minds and bodies. They had learned to think quickly, move quietly, and use simple objects in clever ways. Kai knew that the time for small steps was ending. Today, they would face their first real challenge together. An alien officer entered the block, looking stern and severe. "Some humans are needed for a task," he announced. "Failure will bring punishment. Obedience is expected." The prisoners exchanged worried glances. Many had faced impossible odds before. Kai looked at them calmly. He knew fear was natural, but courage and strategy could turn fear into power. Kai stepped forward, holding the toothbrush. "We can do this," he whispered to the nearest prisoners. "If we act together and use our minds, we can survive and even win. Remember everything we practiced. Watch, think, and strike when it matters." The humans nodded. For the first time, their eyes held more than fear. They held determination. Kai led them quietly to the task area. It was a large hall filled with alien machinery and guards. The humans were expected to retrieve supplies that had been locked in high cabinets while avoiding detection. It was dangerous. One wrong move, and the aliens could punish them severely. Kai studied the hall carefully. He noticed the patrol patterns of the alien guards, the timing of their movements, and the gaps in the lighting. He whispered instructions to the humans, guiding them through the safest paths and the best timing. Every step was deliberate. Every movement was calculated. The humans moved carefully, using shadows and the hum of machinery to hide their presence. Kai held the toothbrush ready, not to attack unless necessary, but as a symbol of confidence. When one guard approached unexpectedly, a prisoner froze. Kai tapped lightly on the floor, signaling the human to duck. The guard passed by without noticing. Small actions, careful timing, and patience were their greatest weapons. As they progressed, Kai saw an opportunity. One cabinet contained the supplies they needed, but it was high and locked. He handed a small piece of wire to a prisoner named Lian, showing her how to hook the latch and lift the lock. Together, they worked quietly, retrieving the supplies without making a sound. The humans were learning to use intelligence and coordination, skills that brute strength could not match. Suddenly, an alien guard turned toward them. A young human panicked, knocking over a small tool. It clattered loudly across the floor. Kai acted instantly. He raised the toothbrush, pointing at the guard, not to strike but to draw attention and create hesitation. He stepped forward with calm confidence. The guard froze, uncertain. Kai used the pause to guide the humans into hiding behind machinery. The guard looked around, confused, and then walked away. Kai exhaled slowly. Timing and courage had saved them. As they continued, the humans faced more challenges. Guards passed unexpectedly, doors needed to be unlocked quickly, and the path was blocked by alien machinery. Kai remained calm, guiding them step by step. Each human began to move more confidently, trusting his leadership and their own skills. Even the weakest among them learned that patience, observation, and clever thinking could protect them. At one point, a group of aliens approached from the other side of the hall. Kai whispered instructions quickly. Split up and create distractions. Stay calm. Work together. The humans moved strategically. Some banged lightly on metal pipes to draw attention. Others used shadows to hide and maneuver around. It was like a game of strategy and timing. The aliens were strong, but humans were clever and unpredictable. Finally, the humans reached the last cabinet, which contained the most important supplies. The lock was complex, far more difficult than the previous ones. Kai examined it carefully. Using a small wire and precise movements, he guided another human, Rena, to manipulate the mechanism. With patience and concentration, the lock clicked open. The supplies were theirs. They had succeeded without serious confrontation. Kai looked at the humans, pride swelling inside him. They had done more than follow instructions. They had worked together, adapted to changing situations, and used their minds to overcome danger. The alien guards had been challenged not by brute strength but by intelligence, courage, and teamwork. When they returned to their cells, Zorik appeared. He watched quietly, his sharp eyes fixed on Kai and the humans. "You have done well, human," he said. "Perhaps humans are more clever than I expected. You have survived not through strength, but through strategy. This is unusual." Kai nodded respectfully. "We survive because we think, sir. We work together, and we use every opportunity wisely. Strength alone is not enough." Zorik's gaze lingered. He had trained countless species, yet few had demonstrated such intelligence and coordination. Humans were not the strongest, but Kai had proven that they could challenge expectations and survive in ways other species could not. The other humans looked at Kai with admiration and hope. They realized that courage was contagious and that even the smallest human, with cleverness and determination, could make a difference. Kai smiled quietly. The first real rebellion had been successful, and the humans had learned an invaluable lesson: when they worked together and used their minds, they could survive and even thrive. Kai spent the evening reviewing the events with the prisoners. "Remember," he said, "this was just the beginning. The aliens will continue to test us. We must stay sharp, observe carefully, and think ahead. Courage and intelligence will always be our greatest tools." The humans nodded. Fear had not disappeared completely, but it had been replaced with determination and confidence. They were learning to believe in themselves, in their ability to adapt and overcome even the most dangerous situations. Kai felt proud. The humans were no longer just survivors, they were thinkers, planners, and brave individuals capable of facing challenges together. As night fell, Kai lay down in his small cell. The toothbrush rested beside him, worn but still firm. It had become more than a weapon. It was a reminder of human ingenuity and perseverance. He thought about the next challenges, the tests that awaited them, and the possibility of further rebellion. The humans were ready to face anything, and Kai knew that their courage, strategy, and unity could make them a force even the aliens would respect. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, new trials, and new opportunities to prove that humans could survive and overcome. Kai closed his eyes, confident that with intelligence, teamwork, and courage, humans could face any challenge, even in a world ruled by powerful aliens. The warship trembled suddenly, waking Kai from his light sleep. Alarms blared throughout the corridors, red lights flashing violently. Something was attacking the ship. Kai jumped to his feet, gripping his sharpened toothbrush tightly. This was no training exercise. This was real danger. He rushed to the cell corridor and saw the other humans preparing themselves. Fear was in their eyes, but Kai spoke firmly. "Stay calm. Focus. Remember everything we have practiced. We can survive this, together." His voice steadied them, giving them courage. Zorik appeared quickly, surveying the scene. "Human, you will fight alongside us," the sergeant said. "This is your chance to show what humans are capable of." Kai nodded. This was more than survival. It was an opportunity to prove humanity's worth on a larger scale. Kai led the humans to a corridor that was critical for defending the ship. Aliens were already engaged in combat with intruders from a rival faction. The enemy ships had boarded the vessel, and chaos erupted everywhere. Alarms, flashing lights, and loud alien commands filled the air. Humans were small and weak compared to the alien soldiers, but Kai knew that cleverness, timing, and courage could turn the odds in their favor. He whispered instructions to the group. Move quietly. Use cover. Distract when needed. Focus on weak points. Strike together. The humans nodded and moved as a team, using shadows and machinery to their advantage. Every movement was precise, every action deliberate. The first group of enemy aliens appeared in the corridor. They were large, with sharp claws and glowing weapons. Kai signaled the humans to split into pairs. He darted forward, jabbing one alien in the arm with his toothbrush. It was not a deadly strike, but it disrupted the alien's balance. Another human followed, striking the alien's leg with a piece of metal. Together, they forced the enemy back. Kai's eyes scanned constantly. He noticed gaps in the enemy's coordination, slight movements that revealed openings. He whispered instructions quickly, guiding the humans to strike at the right moment. The aliens were strong and fast, but humans were clever and unpredictable. They reached a junction where two enemy aliens guarded the doorway. Kai quickly assessed the situation. He tapped on a metal pipe, creating a loud clanging noise. One alien turned to investigate. Kai and another human ducked behind a crate. Another human used a small piece of wiring to trip the second alien, causing him to stumble. The humans moved together with timing and precision, using misdirection and coordination to gain the advantage. Zorik watched from the bridge above. He had trained countless species in combat, but these humans were different. They were small and weak, yet they moved with strategy, intelligence, and courage. They had learned to work together, to observe and anticipate, and to strike at the perfect moment. The sergeant realized that humans could be a true asset if trained and guided correctly. The fight intensified as more enemies appeared. Kai and the humans used every trick they had practiced, jabs with sharpened tools, distractions, and careful movements to avoid attacks. One human lured an enemy into a narrow corridor while another struck from behind. The toothbrush, the piece of wire, and even small metal scraps became tools of survival. Each human had learned to act with precision, using brains instead of brute force. At one point, Kai saw a massive enemy charging toward two humans. He acted instantly, moving quickly to intercept. He jabbed his toothbrush at the enemy's leg, causing him to stumble slightly. The humans behind him used the opening to strike the enemy's side with improvised weapons. The alien fell, stunned but not seriously harmed. Kai knew that the goal was survival, not unnecessary injury. Strategy, timing, and coordination were more important than raw power. As the battle continued, the humans gained confidence. They moved with purpose, working together seamlessly. Every obstacle was met with clever thinking and teamwork. They had become more than survivors, they were now active participants in defending the ship. Kai noticed a group of enemy aliens trying to flank them from the side. He quickly instructed a pair of humans to create a distraction. One banged on a metal panel, drawing attention, while the other struck from the opposite direction. The enemies were caught off guard, allowing Kai and the remaining humans to push forward and secure the corridor. Zorik approached Kai in the heat of the battle. "Human, you are proving your species can fight in ways others cannot. You are clever, adaptable, and courageous. Continue." Kai nodded silently, focusing on the immediate danger. Praise was secondary. Survival and protecting the humans came first. Hours passed, but the humans continued to fight intelligently and courageously. They blocked pathways, distracted enemies, and used their small weapons effectively. Even when facing stronger, faster aliens, Kai's guidance and strategy allowed them to hold their ground. The enemy began to retreat in several areas, confused by the humans' unpredictability. Finally, the intruders began to withdraw from the ship. Kai and the humans had helped repel them, not through strength, but through cleverness, coordination, and courage. Zorik observed silently, impressed. Humans had proven that even in a war dominated by power and force, intelligence and teamwork could turn the tide. When the battle ended, Kai gathered the humans in a secure area. They were exhausted, covered in dirt and minor scrapes, but their eyes shone with pride. "We survived," Kai said calmly. "We used our brains, our courage, and our teamwork. We were clever, and we succeeded. Remember this feeling. Remember that humans can do more than others expect." The humans nodded, feeling a new sense of confidence. Fear had not disappeared entirely, but it had been replaced by hope and determination. They had survived a real combat scenario and proved that humans could think, adapt, and act even in impossible situations. Zorik approached Kai again, his expression serious but approving. "You have shown the true potential of humans. Strength is important, but intelligence, courage, and teamwork can overcome many challenges. You have earned my respect, human." Kai bowed slightly. "Thank you, sir. Humans are not the strongest, but we survive by thinking and working together. That is our strength." As night fell, Kai returned to his cell, holding the toothbrush carefully. It had survived battles, trained hands, and long hours of preparation. It was more than a tool, it was a symbol of human ingenuity, resilience, and courage. Kai looked at the other prisoners. They had changed. They were no longer simply afraid or weak. They had grown confident, resourceful, and brave. Kai lay down, exhausted but determined. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he knew one truth: humans had proven themselves. They could survive, fight, and even inspire respect in species far stronger than themselves. Intelligence, creativity, and courage were their greatest weapons. And Kai would continue to lead, teach, and prove that humans were not just survivors, they were clever, courageous, and unstoppable when they worked together. Kai woke to the steady hum of the ship. The corridors were quieter than usual, the chaos of yesterday's battle replaced with a tense calm. Humans moved with confidence now, carrying themselves differently. They had survived combat, learned to trust each other, and gained experience beyond anything they had imagined. Kai felt a quiet pride. The journey had been hard, but they had reached a point where survival was no longer enough, they could thrive. Zorik entered the human quarters with a measured pace, his presence commanding attention. "Kai, you and your humans have done well," he said. "You have survived, fought, and adapted. I have watched, and I recognize that humans are clever beyond my expectations. It is time to show this to the entire ship." Kai nodded. He had hoped for this moment, though he knew it came with risk. Displaying human ingenuity to the alien crew could provoke envy, skepticism, or even hostility. Yet, he also understood that it was an opportunity to secure respect and safety for all the prisoners. "We are ready," Kai said firmly. "We will show that humans are clever, resourceful, and strong in ways you may not expect." Zorik led Kai and the humans to the ship's main training arena. Alien soldiers of all sizes and ranks watched silently as Kai stepped forward. He held his trusty toothbrush in one hand, a symbol of the journey that had begun with a simple tool and had grown into courage and strategy. The humans stood behind him, small but confident, ready to demonstrate their abilities. Kai began with a demonstration of movement and strategy. He guided a human to feint left while another struck from the right, showing the effectiveness of coordination and timing. They used simple tools: a wire, a piece of metal, even the toothbrush, to demonstrate how intelligence could overcome strength. The alien soldiers observed quietly, surprised by the precision and skill of such small creatures. Next, Kai demonstrated problem-solving under pressure. He placed obstacles in the arena, simulating a dangerous corridor filled with threats. Humans navigated carefully, using cover, teamwork, and clever distractions to overcome the challenges. Aliens were amazed at how quickly the humans adapted to unexpected situations. Every movement was precise, calculated, and effective. Zorik stepped closer, observing carefully. "This is remarkable," he said quietly. "Humans are not the strongest, but their intelligence, coordination, and courage are exceptional. They have learned to turn weakness into advantage, danger into opportunity." Kai smiled slightly. "Strength alone cannot win every battle. Observation, timing, and strategy can make even the smallest human capable of extraordinary actions. We have survived, adapted, and grown stronger because of our minds and our courage." The humans followed Kai's lead, demonstrating coordinated attacks, clever feints, and improvised defenses. Each movement impressed the alien soldiers. Even the officers whispered among themselves, astonished at the humans' capabilities. It was clear that Kai had transformed the perception of their species. Humans were no longer weak prisoners, they were clever, resourceful, and capable warriors. Finally, Zorik addressed the audience. "These humans have survived where others have failed. They have demonstrated courage, intelligence, and resourcefulness beyond what we expected. They are not only survivors, they are strategists, thinkers, and capable of actions that even strong species may underestimate. Their leader, Kai, has proven that the mind can be as powerful as strength." The arena erupted in quiet approval. Alien soldiers nodded and murmured among themselves. Kai's eyes scanned the crowd, seeing respect and acknowledgement where once there had been doubt. The humans stood taller now, their confidence shining. They had earned not just survival, but recognition. Kai looked at the humans behind him. "We have done more than survive," he said softly. "We have shown that humans can think, adapt, and succeed. Today, we are not just prisoners. We are respected. And we will continue to grow, learn, and show that our courage and intelligence make us strong in ways others cannot measure." The humans cheered quietly, their voices low but filled with pride. They had come a long way from fear and despair. Under Kai's leadership, they had learned to trust themselves, trust each other, and believe in the power of cleverness, courage, and teamwork. Zorik approached Kai once more. "You have done something remarkable," he said. "I have seen many species in my service, but few have achieved what you and your humans have accomplished. You have earned a place of respect on this ship. Never forget what you have shown today." Kai nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "We will continue to prove ourselves," he said. "Humans survive, and we thrive because of our courage, intelligence, and unity. We are clever, adaptable, and capable of great things." As the humans returned to their quarters, Kai stayed for a moment in the arena, holding the toothbrush in his hand. It had started as a simple tool, something ordinary in the hands of a human. But it had become a symbol of perseverance, intelligence, and courage. Kai smiled, thinking about how far they had come from fear and weakness to skill, confidence, and respect. That evening, the humans gathered quietly. They shared stories of what they had learned, laughed softly at their mistakes, and reflected on their victories. Kai spoke to them, reinforcing the lessons that had carried them this far. "Courage, intelligence, and teamwork are our greatest weapons," he said. "Remember that. Remember that even the smallest, simplest tools can make a difference if used wisely. We have proven that humans are capable of surviving and thriving in ways others cannot imagine." The humans listened intently, understanding fully what Kai meant. Their confidence had grown, and their respect for one another had strengthened. They had learned that survival required more than strength, it required strategy, observation, and courage. Kai looked out of the small window at the stars beyond the ship. The journey had been long, difficult, and dangerous, but humans had adapted and grown stronger. They had faced impossible odds and survived. They had turned fear into courage and weakness into advantage. And through it all, Kai had led them, teaching them that intelligence, teamwork, and perseverance could overcome even the greatest challenges. As night settled over the ship, Kai lay down, holding the toothbrush next to him. It was worn, but it represented everything humans had achieved. He knew the road ahead would have new challenges, but he also knew that humans were ready. They were clever, resourceful, and brave. They had proven themselves to the aliens and to themselves. Kai closed his eyes, feeling a quiet pride. The humans had survived, learned, and earned respect. They were no longer just small creatures in a dangerous world. They were thinkers, strategists, and courageous warriors. They had shown that even the smallest, weakest human could make a difference through intelligence, teamwork, and courage. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new adventures. But Kai knew one thing for certain: humans had earned their place among the stars. They were clever, they were brave, and they were unstoppable when they worked together. And Kai, with his simple toothbrush, had shown them the way. The journey was complete, but the story of humanity's courage and intelligence had only just begun.